Hey everybody, you ready for another deep dive today? We're going to Gotham City, but we're not fighting crime. Instead, we're going to explore the mind of Batman himself using Batman and Psychology. A Dark and Stormy Night by Travis Langley. Get ready, because this one gets pretty interesting.
Yeah, it really does. What always fascinates me about Batman is how, everyone sees him as, the realistic superhero, right? I mean, he doesn't have any crazy superpowers. He's just got, money and gadgets.
Yeah.
And Langley actually says that this perceived realism is, super important because it helps us buy into the crazier parts of the Batman universe.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so, a guy dressing up as a bat to fight crime is believable because he can afford all the cool toys.
Exactly. It kind of stretches what we're willing to believe in a story, but Langley's argument is that because Batman's abilities are rooted in, technology and wealth, it's easier to accept the more outlandish parts of his world.
Right. Well,
And then there's the big elephant in the room, right? The event that kicks off this whole thing.
you mean his parents being murdered?
Exactly. Bruce Wayne witnessing his parents' deaths as a child, Langley argues that this trauma, it's not just a backstory element, it's the bedrock of Batman's entire psychology.
Yeah, it's interesting because, so many heroes have these tragic backstories. But you're right, we rarely see it examined, it's in depth.
Right.
So how does Langley actually connect that event to, how Batman acts as an adult?
So he uses a few different theories to kind of break it down. One is Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that basically says everyone's got these basic needs that need to be met before we can even think about things like, self-actualization.
Right.
Langley argues that since Bruce is crazy rich, his basic needs are already met, so he fixates on these higher needs like justice, but he's filtering it all through this lens of his childhood trauma.
So it's not just about stopping crime. It's about making sure no one ever feels that pain that he felt.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but does that really explain the whole, dressing up as a bat and terrorizing criminals thing? I feel like there might be a more compassionate way to go about it.
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. See, Langley also brings Freud into the mix. He analyzes Bruce through the lens of psychosexual development.
Oh, Freud? Okay, this is where I start to get a little lost. Keep me on track here.
Oh, absolutely. So Freud basically believed that your experiences as a kid, they really impact who you become as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And Langley suggests that Batman's really strong moral code, the whole no killing rule.
Right.
It could come from this deep-seated need to control the chaos he experienced when he was young. He lacks so much control that now he's hyper-focused on controlling everything.
So it's like a coping mechanism.
Exactly, but taken to the most extreme level possible.
Right.
And it's more than just control, too. Think about how Batman's always lurking in the shadows, right? That image is so powerful. It's he's a symbol of fear. And Langley connects that to Jungian archetypes, specifically the shadow archetype.
The shadow. What is the part of ourselves we don't like to talk about?
Yeah. It's that unconscious part of us that holds all the stuff we repress or deny. And Langley's arguing that when Batman's out there confronting criminals, he's actually confronting a physical manifestation of his own shadow. It's pretty deep when you think about it.
It really is. It's like he's fighting himself while fighting crime at the same time.
Whoa.
So he's battling his inner demons out there on the streets of Gotham.
Yeah, in a way.
That's pretty wild. But Langley also talks about how those demons, they kind of manifest in his villains too, right?
Exactly. He makes this point that Batman's rogues gallery, they're not just there to look cool. Each villain embodies some psychological element that reflects back on Batman himself.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Take Scarecrow, for example.
Yeah.
He doesn't just want to steal money or anything like that. He wants to break people using their deepest fears.
And the way he does it is straight out of a nightmare. Why is Scarecrow such an effective villain, though?
Well, Langley suggests he's tapping into this fear of the unknown. It's like a primal anxiety we all have. That fear that our minds could be compromised or that our sanity isn't as stable as we think, it messes with us on a really deep level.
Okay, yeah. No wonder Batman's always trying to stay one step ahead of him.
Yeah.
So what about the Joker, then? He's the most famous Batman villain, and he's all about chaos. How does he fit into this whole, Batman facing his demons idea?
Oh, the Joker. He's a fascinating one because he's the complete opposite of Batman, right? Batman's all about order, justice. The rules. And the Joker, he's chaos, he's nihilism, he's basically everything Batman hates.
Yeah.
Langley actually dives into the possibility that the Joker is a psychopath because he got all the classic signs, no empathy, total disregard for the rules, and he seems to actually enjoy destruction.
Yeah.
It's reason and logic just don't compute with him.
But even though he's all over the place,
Yeah.
there's this weird connection between him and Batman. It's almost like they need each other.
You're right, there's this really weird dynamic between them. And Langley suggests that even with all that chaos, the Joker might actually crave connection. You know, it's messed up, but his obsession with Batman, that need to prove a point, it could come from this deep need for validation.
Yeah.
Even if it's only achieved through violence and destruction.
That's a dark thought. But it does make their whole rivalry way more interesting. It's like you said, not just good versus evil. It's these two super messed up psyches battling it out, trying to find some kind of meaning. It's like each villain is another side of Batman, you know, another piece of that puzzle. But there's one reflection we haven't talked about yet. The Robins. They're not just sidekicks. They're practically family. What does Langley say about them?
That's where his analysis gets really good. He says, Batman surrounding himself with these young protégés, it's all about protecting others from the trauma he went through.
Okay.
It's like he's trying to build this legacy of healing, but through fighting crime, which is kind of...
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a pretty heavy burden to put on a kid. Do you think that messes them up too?
Yeah, totally. And Langley doesn't shy away from that. He looks at the impact it has on each Robin, like starting with Dick Grayson, you know, the first Robin.
Right.
He loses his parents, just like Bruce did, but he finds this surrogate family in the Bat family.
It's like that shared trauma brings them together, but it also creates this really complicated dynamic. Right?
Exactly. And then there's Jason Todd, the second Robin. Things don't go so well for him.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly.
Right. But Langley digs into how Jason's past, his anger issues, his need to prove himself, it all kind of builds up to his downfall. It's like a warning sign about how dangerous Batman's methods can be. Like, where's the line between training someone and using them?
So it's like Batman's need to control everything to shape these kids in his image. He could be doing more harm than good.
That's the question Langley's asking. And he contrasts Jason with Tim Drake III. Robin. Tim's more level-headed, you know, more thoughtful. He still wants to help, but he's more aware of himself. It's like Batman's learned to be a better mentor. Less about force and more about strategy.
So maybe it is possible for a Robin to actually thrive in that world.
Yeah.
But it takes a certain kind of person.
Absolutely. And then you've got Damian Wayne Bruce's actual son. Talk about a complicated family.
Oh, yeah, he was raised by assassins, right?
Yeah, the League of Assassins.
Yeah.
So he's bringing this whole other worldview to the table. It's nature versus nurture right there.
Does Langley say anything about how Damian deals with all that?
He says that even though Damian fights it at first, he's drawn to his dad's mission. Like, it gives him purpose, you know? He wants to be a part of the Batman legacy, but to do that, he has to face his own demons.
So every Robin is like another reflection of Batman's issues. His past, his present, trying to outrun it all.
And that's what makes these stories so interesting. It's not just about the costumes and the gadgets. It's about facing your fears, dealing with messed up relationships, finding some meaning when the world's giving you nothing but pain.
This has been a wild ride. I feel like we learned so much more than just crime-fighting techniques today.
Me too.
Travis Langley's book really makes you see Batman in a whole new light. And for everyone listening, think about this. What advice would you give Batman, knowing everything we've talked about today? Could he do things differently? Face those demons head on without dragging everyone else into it. Something to think about next time you're in Gotham.
Until next time.